When you think of Kashmir, what comes to mind? I bet it's breathtaking valleys, right? Just absolutely stunning scenery. But what if I told you that deep in those mountains and inside those old, quiet homes, there are other stories? Stories that are a whole lot darker.
So you gotta wonder, what happens when the sun goes down and all the tourists head home? Is everything just peaceful, serene? Or is there something else? The local folklore and some pretty chilling first-hand accounts, they seem to suggest there are some deep, unspoken mysteries hiding there. All right, let's get into it. We're going to explore the side of Kashmir you definitely don't see on the postcards.
First up, we're diving into tales that aren't just your typical campfire stories. Nope, these are born from real, documented, and often tragic events. It's like the pain from the past is still echoing, and people say you can still hear it today.
And our first stop is a place called the Gokadao Bridge. Now, this is way more than just a bridge of concrete and steel. For a lot of people, it's basically a memorial to one of the darkest days in Kashmir's history. And some say you can still feel the weight of that day right there.
So here's what happened. Back on January 21st, 1990, during a time of intense civil unrest, a protest on this very bridge took a tragic turn. It became known as the Gokadal Massacre, and at least 50 civilians lost their lives. It was just sudden, violent, and incredibly painful. And the local belief, right, is that trauma that intense doesn't just disappear. It leaves a scar on the place itself. And that scar? Well, that's exactly what people are reporting even now. Locals, people just passing through, they talk about these really chilling experiences, especially after dark. They say you can hear faint screams, cries for help that just cut through the silence. And get this, some people feel this overwhelming sensation, like they're packed in a huge crowd, even when they're totally alone on the bridge. But the freakiest part? The thing people report over and over are these fleeting human-like shadow figures that are there one second and gone the next. Okay, let's move on to another place where a painful history has left what feels like a spiritual wound. We're talking about the twin villages of Kunan and Pashpora. Something happened there in 1991, and it completely changed the story of those villages forever.
So, on February 23, 1991, a search operation took place in these villages, and out of that came some horrific allegations of mass violence against women. Just like with the Gokadal Bridge, the trauma of that event is said to just hang in the air. Residents talk about hearing disembodied cries and screams of women in the dead of night. Some even claim to have seen apparitions, ghostly figures of women just roaming the area. For the people there, this isn't about spooky stories. It's a constant, haunting reminder of a past that's never really gone away.
All right, so not every spooky story is tied to a big historical event. Some legends are, well, they're more timeless. They're about certain places, or even things in nature that are believed to hold some kind of supernatural power, or maybe even a curse.
Let's take Srinagar. It's a city full of these gorgeous, unique houses. But there's one house that everybody knows for a totally different reason. It's not about the architecture, it's about who or what is said to live there. We're talking about a jinn, a supernatural being from mythology, and the locals even gave him a name, Abdullah.
And the story that made this house famous is, well, it's really out there. There's this one account from a guy who said he didn't believe any of it until he saw it with his own eyes. He watched a pair of shoes belonging to someone who went inside just come walking out the door by themselves, like an invisible person was wearing them. How wild is that?
So over time, these stories have created a kind of set of unofficial rules for the house. Rule number 1, if you go in, your shoes are going to get thrown out. Rule number 2, you'll hear all sorts of weird noises coming from inside, even though the place is empty. But it's rule number 3 that's really sinister. The belief is that anyone brave, or foolish, enough to go inside will get hit with this mysterious illness, one that doctors just can't seem to cure. And because of that, pretty much everyone stays clear.
Okay, from a haunted house in the city, let's go way out into the mountains, to the remote Garez Valley. Here, the local legend isn't about a building, it's about a part of nature, a single, specific tree. And the story goes that this tree holds a really powerful curse for anyone who ignores the warnings. And this legend is super specific. The curse supposedly only works on Amavasya. That's the night of the new moon, when it's pitch black. If you touch that tree on that night, they say an evil power latches onto you. And we're not talking about a quick jump scare. The locals say it's like a heavy weight you can't get rid of, something that makes you sick over time. And yep, you guessed it, another one of those mysterious illnesses that just can't be cured.
So we've had haunted houses, we've had cursed trees. Now let's talk about what happens on the road, on the journeys between these places. Kashmir's got these long, winding roads and mountain passes, and you better believe they have their own creepy stories for travelers.
Okay, so on the Jammu-Kashmir highway, right before you get to the Banihal Tunnel, there's this stretch of road with a seriously terrifying name, Kuni Nala. That literally means bloody ravine. Now, it got that name because, tragically, there have been a ton of fatal accidents there. But the local stories, they suggest it might be more than just a dangerous road.
The story you hear from drivers is always the same. They see a woman on the side of the road, holding a baby. She's trying to flag them down, asking for a ride. And here's the really chilling part of the legend. If you see her and you drive past, if you ignore her, they say you're guaranteed to have a fatal crash just a little further down the road. But, not every roadside spirit is looking for help. Some are looking for prey. Kashmiri folklore talks about these predatory creatures, and one of the scariest is called the Ra-Chok. This thing is a shapeshifter. It can look human, and it often carries a light, pretending to be a guide to help lost travelers. But its real goal? To lead you off the safe path and straight into danger.
So you've got these two totally different kinds of supernatural dangers on the road, right? The ghost at Kuni Nala seems to punish people who don't help, but the Ra-Chok, it tricks and preys on the people who do accept its help. One is all about punishing a lack of compassion, and the other is just pure, malicious deception.
Look, it's easy to hear all this and just think, okay, these are just old stories, superstitions, right? But what happens when something totally unexplainable happens to someone today? Not in some remote valley, but in a totally normal place, like a hotel? So I came across this story from a guy on a business trip to Srinagar. He said he'd grown up hearing all the local folklore, but, never actually believed it or experienced it. Well, that all changed on this trip. Over 3 nights in his hotel, a bunch of weird stuff happened that he just could not explain away.
Okay, so night 1. He's in his room, door double locked, and the doorknob starts rattling like crazy, as if someone's desperately trying to get in. Night 2, he wakes up because the whole room is shaking violently, like a full-on earthquake. He's about to run for it, and then it just stops. Then, on the 3rd day, he comes back to his room. He'd left a leaky water bottle balanced on top of a cup to catch the drips. When he got back, the bottle was moved to the side, and all the water was in a big puddle on the table.
But here's the part that really freaked him out. The next morning, after the earthquake, he asked the hotel staff, he asked other guests, he checked the news, and nothing. 0. No one else felt a thing. It wasn't an earthquake. Whatever happened, it happened only in his room.
So, what do you do with all that? Are these just stories? Are they the echoes of real historical trauma mixed with a little bit of fear of the dark? Or is there something more going on? Something you can't see, that makes itself known in the quiet corners of these incredible valleys? When it comes to Kashmir, that's a question you really have to answer for yourself.